We
Well,
are
we're just
back.
gonna see
We
how
are
this
ready
goes.
to talk about Kenobi.
All right, so
I mean,
Kenobi,
are we?
Part 3. Well, we're as ready as we're ever going to be at this point. Kenobi, Part 3, really came in strong last week. I really felt that this was finally the moment where the show was starting to feel like a proper in-between of Episode 3 and 4. But we'll get into what I had to think afterwards. John, why don't you go ahead and start us off Kenobi Part 3?
Okay, so I don't understand why we call it Kenobi, because as much as we thought this was going to be the story of how the noble mentor becomes the noble mentor, instead we're getting the most honorable person in the entire Jedi Order / history is no longer awake despite 20 years of live combat experience and 10 years of continued blue collar labor. So like if anything, he's been doing yoga for the last 10 years compared to like where he was, and now he's barely reactionary, barely observant, barely present, despite also being on the biggest mission since taking on the mission of taking care of Luke. It really feels like, if anything, it just honestly feels completely discombobulated. But that's my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like they had a huge gain in episode 2. And the plot of this episode just kind of pushed the narrative right back to that first episode again. Which in certain circumstances would be fine, depending on the kind of story you're telling. But what we're watching here is supposed to be an epic. It's supposed to move forward in a direction, and we're not getting that. We're actually getting a regression instead of a move forward. There were a couple of other like small things that drove me a little crazy in the episode. Like Obi-Wan is he feels something it's daytime. They walk into this back room. We see them there maybe for 5-10 minutes. They walk back out, and all of a sudden it's night, and like Vader's coming in with the night somehow. And I'm like, that is a crazy force ability that Vader is now able to move an entire planet's orbit in such a way that he brings in the night. Now, don't get me wrong, when Vader shows up and just goes to town on this village, I mean, the one thing I will say about Disney Star Wars is every time Disney has put Vader in Disney Star Wars, they've done a really good service to this creature. They've made him legitimately terrifying. And I love it. I love the reaction Obi-Wan had to seeing him, which was the equivalent of, oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die so hard here. Because,
Was
it
a reaction of, I'm gonna die, or was it a reaction of, oh, he's alive?
Well,
Because
I think it's both.
I couldn't
I think
tell
it might be
either.
both,
I
right?
couldn't read any of it off of Kenobi.
I mean, look, I'll take that it's happening on both, but oh man, the just the horror in his, just the horror on his face of, this look of, well, we're screwed. Was at the very least acceptable.
It didn't feel like he was showing us horror. It felt like he was showing us fear.
Right, but
as far as terror
goes,
I feel like Obi-Wan wasn't supposed to be afraid. He was supposed to be in pain. That he was supposed to feel all of the darkness that had happened, and instead what we got was, oh no, there's a bad guy.
Well, okay, I will put forward this theory that I've got going, which is the only way I can justify this episode, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, Vader, because he is so in tune with the dark side, puts out an aura of absolute terror in everywhere he goes. And because Kenobi had not been prepared for that aura of sheer terror and didn't know how to counter it.
Shabin, shut up first. There's Shabin.
Right?
Hello. Right,
You know,
I hear you.
Didn't know how to how to deal with that. That was probably, the only way I can justify what happened there. Otherwise, though, I mean, look, those are my big issues. The other one is, how is Leia a better spy master than Obi-Wan Kenobi? How is Obi-Wan Kenobi this bad at going undercover?
Bro, how is she so calm?
Right?
I've hung out with kids, the more stressed the events get, the more stressful the kids are. And not necessarily in terms of, you're not my dad, you're a Jedi, hey guys, there's a Jedi. No, it's just more in terms of, they keep making errors. And instead, Leia is making positive motions. She's progressing the story. If anything, she should be the reason why the story isn't moving. And instead, Obi-Wan is.
Yeah, I would totally buy... See, I think we would have had a much better situation if she believed Obi-Wan was her actual father from, the get-go. And kind of was trying to convince Obi-Wan of this, almost. She's that kind of attitude. That would have been great.
In that case, there should have been, one or two bedtime story scenes where she's being told the stories of Anakin and Obi-Wan. And she's seeing all this honor in Obi-Wan. And all this, education. They're talking about, how Obi-Wan's Anakin's master and Anakin's the one being educated. But, the family, the Ortegas, are still sharing Obi-Wan or Anakin's story with his daughter, but at the same time, she's interpreting it as Obi-Wan was her dad. Obi-Wan raised Anakin, so he was probably getting ready to raise her. Yeah. And then when she hears the name Obi-Wan, because somebody goes, Obi-Wan, what has happened to you? And she goes, wait, I thought your name was Ben. That would have made sense.
Yeah. There were unforced errors, I guess I want to put it as, that in the story that kept cropping up in this episode that they kind of nagged at me. I'm all for forced errors, you know what I mean? Where bad luck, bad timing, right? Probe droid shows up, scans Kenobi, right? That's fine. I have no problem with that part of the scenario, right?
Or teleporting Reva, though.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Dude, oh my... Reva's the third sister, right? I'm not okay, yeah. That fun...
Tunnel's a mile long.
Dude, that caught so hard into my mind. As soon as I saw Leia running, I was like, she's gonna somehow magically be there. I just know, I already see where you're doing with this, with the videography part of the shot. She's gonna be there, and she gets there, and you hear her voice. And I will admit, the setup they do with her right there of I relieved them, and then you see the edge of their dead bodies, and she's off screen. That was cool. That being said, the fact that she was there, I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, okay, so they left way before her. There's one direction. There's only one way for the tunnels to get there. You would have to go out a side tunnel and then nowhere to come outside of that. But somehow she has managed to get to Leia, who left way before her and is a child that is adventurous and runs and climbs trees and is running through these tunnels, and you beat her there.
It would have made way more sense.
Get out of here.
It would have made way more sense if they'd shown the tunnels as this extreme labyrinth.
And Leia got lost,
is given
even though she had directions.
Yeah. And then this other girl runs in there looking for anyone, and boom, they bump into each other. And
yeah,
it could have been
in a random
Disney
passage.
bumping. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
You know what? I can even
realistic.
fix that scene even better. Yes, we turn it into a labyrinth, and the rebel girl that shows up, instead of giving the directions to Leia, gives the directions to Leia's droid Lola, and Lola gets turned around because it's just been fixed.
Yeah,
and it glitches
out. Or it turns off. Yeah.
Or I could have even dealt with Leia making it to those people.
David
the people
Bowie
interacting.
Should be hiding, according to Shaving.
David Bowie.
There we go.
And
Bring
she meets up with the people, and as they're going towards the ship, and they're still because they made the point of like we're not ready, and they're still like trying to finish up the last few things. Then Reva shows up behind and
how
murks
is
everyone, because
nobody
now you have a
ready?
cool scene where Reva can just wreck everyone present and genuinely terrify Leia and like sink in the mentalist of this problem of like this is not this dude that has been showing you around.
Bro,
this is a person
better-
who will murder everyone in her way. Like you could have used
that we had the moment where Reva's in trouble because she thought she killed the Grand Inquisitor, right? Because apparently that's already been fixed as far as the lore goes. He has 2 tummies, so one of the tummies got an owie, but the other tummy didn't, so he's still alive.
No,
So
they straight up say the Inquisitor's dead in the very beginning of the episode.
No,
Negative. They did not confirm that. They almost
The way
they brushed it
They
right
kinda
off.
the way it was
They
said, it
ignored
sounded
the
like she
Inquisitor.
told Vader
Nope.
that Obi-Wan killed the Inquisitor.
No,
She
it was literally
insinuating
like
that he defeated the Inquisitor and that he took serious damage, but it seems implied. Until we have confirmation, it hasn't
seems-
been confirmed yet. But
exactly,
yes,
and the way Vader just brushed it off, he's like, I don't
I don't
care
give a
about
shit,
him. It
yeah.
wasn't
I
like I
mean-
lost
I mean,
anyone, and nobody said that he
Vader
was
wouldn't
dead.
care. See, I took that as
but
she sold it as Obi-Wan killed him.
the
Vader
difference
wouldn't
would've
give
been-
a shit about it. He doesn't care
right,
about
I
his
would-
people. He just
No,
doesn't
Vader
care.
would've cared that his people weren't trained enough. That's the big difference.
He
is,
sees
like,
them
if-
as insignificant. He
Well, no,
literally,
so
I
if-
don't
if
agree with that
Obi-Wan
statement,
had-
that sentiment.
Well, no, if Obi-Wan had like been accused of killing the Inquisitor, for sure, just like dispatched him, then in that moment, and like Darth Vader would have been like, "All right, I'm coming in. You hold back. Like you're not good enough. None of you are. If my Grand Inquisitor isn't good enough, none of the younger ones are at all. I'll be there."
I
But
don't
instead
agree
we
with
got,
that
"I
because
don't
he
care
expects
about him
everyone
anymore."
to either perform
No.
better than the target or they should be dead. Like that's his position on things.
Guys, I think you're also forgetting how much Vader absolutely hates Obi-Wan.
Right,
It
and that's my
wasn't
point.
a-
Is he wouldn't send more cannon fodder. He
No,
would just
he-
say,
he
"You guys
needs
get
to
out
do
of
this
my way. I'm
himself.
going in."
Which is why he shows
Right.
up.
Right,
Like,
but we didn't.
But they
see
need to
him
go
say that
find
to-
the
no,
cat
but
and find him.
my only explanation is that like the reason the Grand Inquisitor isn't definitely dead is because he didn't pull anybody off. He said, "You guys make way for me." Like
I don't think he would.
figures that I think the Inquisitor was a casualty, but he's not dead. And while Obi-Wan may be given the credit for making the Grand Inquisitor a casualty, Anakin doesn't care who made him a casualty. He's still alive, so let's not talk about him. When he gets back up to snuff, he'll be up to snuff. And that's
everything
the kind
I've
of
always
brush
seen
off
with Vader.
that I got.
I don't see, and I just don't see it that way. I fully see it as he does not care about these
Right.
people.
No,
They are
it's
cannon
not-
fodder to
This
him.
isn't.
He
this
will
isn't a
literally
question of-
kill
no,
them
this
because
isn't
they
a question of
inconvenienced
care.
him.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Is it would be more of an inconvenience to send more cannon fodder, pushing Obi-Wan
because then
further away.
Because
Instead,
as far as he
he
sees
gave
it,
them
they
credit
need to
and
track
said, "You
him
guys
down.
Right, but if they had died in
Which
the
is what he-
first
which is
tracking
what he
Then,
tells her.
experience,
then they
he
didn't
would have
deserve to
kicked
be
them
alive
all
in the
the-
first place. They're
Right,
not
and he
worthy
would-
to exist
right.
anyways.
and
Like,
he would
that's
have kicked
his
them
position.
out of the process. He would
Okay,
have
but-
kicked them out, and that's what we're missing. Is he didn't kick them out. He told them to keep doing their jobs because they got close enough, so he didn't need to like discontinue their failures. And like I feel like if the Grand Inquisitor had died, he would have kicked them out.
Well,
he would have
don't-
said, "You guys are
Here-
done.
here's
Go
how-
do something else. This is my job now."
Here's how I see it. Vader sees the Inquisitors like probe droids. He sends them out to go find the things that he actually wants to deal with, right? And anything below him, things that are like unworthy of his attention, he lets them deal with because he doesn't care, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's I feel like
Oh, hold
that's
on, hold
making Vader too dark. Like he's dark,
Well,
but in a extra dark way. Like in terms of
hold on.
This is the guy who literally
uses
killed kids
people.
in episode 3, John.
right, but he uses people.
Before he was fully.
Well, hold on though. He also though is going to use the I think the real reason why he didn't want those Inquisitors involved in the fight with Obi-Wan had nothing to do with any of the stuff we've discussed so far. It was primarily because he knows how good Obi-Wan is at screwing with other people.
He also has a
And if
vendetta
there's-
against him.
Well, yeah, but if there's other, like, if there's mooks, for lack of a better term, in the way, all they're gonna do is screw up his perfect chance to finally get revenge on this guy. So you guys hang back, make sure he does not leave the planet, keep him
But see-
trapped here while I finish this fight.
Right, and see, I agree with that. My thing though is like that's the thing that they should have done with Reva is they set her up as being the one who stabbed the Inquisitor, right? And like Darth Vader didn't really care about whether or not the Inquisitor was okay, but it really should have been that like Reva was suffering backlash, and the reason why she was right there when Leia got out of the tunnel is because she was forced to stay on the ship, and we just see this whole time where she's just complaining about waiting and I got sidelined even though I'm the one that found him. I'm the one that did us. And we just watch this whole like 5-minute tirade of her complaining, and then also she witnesses a group of escapees board a ship and she goes, oh, that's interesting. And then when Leia's running, and that's the last we see of her for the whole rest of the episode. And then when Leia's running through the tunnels, who does she find? There, the person who connected some dots only saw 3 minutes of. And she's now at the end of the tunnel. Instead, she teleports.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, if I was rewriting this series up until this point, I would have definitely made a more contentious relationship between Leia and Obi-Wan, where they didn't kind of bond very well at all. And that way, when Reva shows up and she's like, well, I'm from the Empire. I'm here to take you home. I'm here to protect you. You know, your father has like gone to the Empire, and we're the good guys. We're the special operations team that's going to bring you home. And trying to pull Leia into the Imperial fold would have been a very interesting way to take this, right? It would have been like, no, I'm going to get you home. I wasn't involved, you know, we weren't involved in your kidnapping at all. Right, like just cat's pawing her against against Obi-Wan.
Yeah. All right, great. Chris, why don't you go ahead and go with what you did not like about Kenobi, and then we'll shift gears into what we did like.
Yeah, you may have noticed I didn't join in the conversation in the last few minutes, and I've had it's taken me a few days to process this episode. Because I really, really wanted to like this episode, and I really love Star Wars. But there was something that happened, you know, during the episode when Obi-Wan and Vader were fighting. I realized that I didn't feel anything. And I know that there's people out there who will absolutely love this episode and will love that fight and love everything about it. But for me, anyways, personally, my own experience with it is I just didn't feel anything. And then I started to think about the episode, and I realized that I didn't really feel anything about the episode at all. And I realized I'm watching this, and I'm you know, I'd be willing to watch the last 3 episodes for the sake of the Writer brothers, but like if I was just watching it on my own, I'm done. You know, this is it for me. I wouldn't continue, and I would never need to or want to watch the rest of the show. It's not that I think it's horrible by any stretch. There are parts I really like. I think Leia's well cast. She's done a reasonably good job, especially with the risk of a child actor. You know, but it's, you know, when I really took time to think about it, I came to this conclusion in my mind that it's just not what I had. What it's not what I would have imagined would have happened. I'm not sure if I really feel like I believe it's part of what's happening in Star Wars. I don't. It's hard to explain, and it was hard for me to get my head around how to put it into words, which is why I may be struggling a little bit right now. But it's just not. It's not the story that I would have. You know,
I think I have the words for what you're feeling. This series has been accumulating growth. Every new trilogy brings a whole new fan base. And now as it's like Star Wars is worth something like $100 billion. The IP alone of Star Wars is $100 billion.
Yeah.
And the quality of writing that we're getting is freshman in college, senior in high school. And it like we deserve Shakespeare. We deserve a 2-hour diatribe between Obi-Wan and Owen in a bar talking about why Luke needs to be left to the farm.
Give me that.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the character you've experienced. You've seen him when he's an action hero. You've seen him when he's a diplomatic hero. You've seen him when he's a mentor. Now let me see the man. And instead we're seeing
I didn't need I am again if you're looking forward to a fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, power to you, because hopefully it's a great fight. I don't think I needed Vader or Leia or any significant characters. I was happy with just Obi-Wan in a smaller setting, in a not quite as massive stakes setting.
It adds way more gravitas to Darth Vader's quote when he says, "I feel a presence I haven't felt in a long time." The way that he keeps his resignation and minimalizes that feeling. If they had never met since Mustafar, that makes Vader seem way more reserved and way more powerful than ever explained before, especially compared to all of his other outbursts. But now that we keep seeing him outburst, it's like, oh, so he's 1 second away from being Kylo Ren.
I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and transition to what we did like, and I'm going to go ahead and respond to a lot of your guys' points, and I'm just going to give my 2 cents on that. So,
can I say one thing first?
Sure.
There's two main things I took issue with the show. One I talked about and agreed with was Reva and her teleportation magic. The other was in the fight with Vader. I could take the fact that Obi-Wan's supposed to have put his lightsaber in the dirt, basically his head in the dirt, and not been using it, right? And so he's going to be rusty. Cool. I can accept he'd lose that fight because of that, and Vader's still being like this very powerful character. Could take that loss. What I could not find myself accepting was how garbage he was in the fight, though. Like, he factually is worse in that fight than the first time Rey picks up a lightsaber in that movie.
Okay, I don't want to compare the sequel trilogy just because.
I mean, that's fair, but my point is, like, that is the worst example of anyone I have seen in Star Wars to date using a lightsaber. To include younglings, Luke in episode 4, like, just period. He's fumbling all over the place with it. Like, you're not going to convince me that this was a Jedi Master. Like, even if you can't remember, he's still going to understand the basic forms. And he's like, over here doing this shit. And I'm like,
okay. So here we go. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand where y'all are coming from. I understand where the grief is towards this series. As I said before, we are 3 episodes deep. We have 3 episodes left. I understand, Chris, you're a bit discouraged, disgruntled. It's fine. For me, watching this, I don't know how, because I must have absorbed what you guys were supposed to feel and kept it for myself. Because that fight, even though I know what the resolution is going to be, I was just on the edge of my seat. I was worried the entire time. I was like, no, he's going to come out of it, but man, this is rough. Now, the reason why I bought it is because you're right. He puts the sabers in the dirt, and he removes himself from the Force to the point where he's only meditating. And I think that the best way to describe Kenobi right now is probably the REM song "Losing My Religion." I think that is Kenobi's theme right now, because while he's saying,
I disagree with that. Like, I fundamentally disagree.
Okay, can you please let me finish? Let me finish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God, you're talking over me all night. What he does, what he basically did is he's put Luke as the center point of his protection. He has to prioritize Luke. And so, in doing so, he needs to keep everybody away, including the Jedi. That's why when that other apprentice or Jedi comes to see him, he's like, no, piss off. It's basically what he says. He does that because he cannot let Luke be found. He still thinks that he's going to train Luke, but at this point in time, he's not convinced that it's actually going to happen. Owen has basically stepped in and said, no, you're not training him, you're not doing this, just leave us alone. And he is now at the point where he needs to find his faith again. And that's what we're seeing. Vader, for all we know, we don't know what he's been doing for 10 years. There's the possibility that he's been on ice or the back to tank for 10 years, which, Brandon, if you're still there, I don't know if you had to call away or whatever. He's, if he's been sitting in the back to tank, I would agree with your assessment that he definitely, the fight was a bit contrived. I would agree with you there. I'm assuming that Vader's been out on the warpath, taking out the rest of the Jedi, and so he's been building up his skill by overcoming all these other Jedi throughout the 10 years, whereas Kenobi's literally put his head in the sand to the point where he's not even paying attention to galactic news. Now, I will capitulate here. You guys aren't entirely wrong. It is a bit sloppy to make that assumption that for 10 years he wouldn't know about Darth Vader. It is a bit sloppy to just go with the assumption that he would be so bad at the fight. However, I think that's part of what really is going to put Kenobi back on the right path, though. He's had his butt kicked by his former apprentice in such a way that was pathetic, to where Vader watches him leave in the flames, and somebody else, I shared this earlier, pointed out that the reason Vader decides to let him go at that point is because he's not satisfied with this. Just like you aren't satisfied with it, Brandon. You're basically Vader at this point watching this fight going, oh, come on, that's it? This is pathetic. And so now, what I hope is going to happen over the next 3 episodes is that tonight's episodes is probably going to be very exposition heavy. It's probably going to be where he, finally finds his strength to come back and decides. 5 is probably going to be the Rocky, training montage where he's going to bust out his lightsaber and do some moves, and we're going to see him, do some force weightlifting. And then episode 6 will probably tie up with a final fight that will then realign the canon back to, when I left you, I was but a learner, because there's still time for Obi-Wan to not only find his strength, but to take Darth Vader to school again. And so, I suppose the way I'm looking at it is that I can already see that's what's probably coming. And so that's, so I'm kind of sort of pseudo setting those expectations. That said, I completely understand where you guys are all coming from. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. Well, I'm never going to say anyone's wrong for having feelings. You can't really argue feelings. However, I'm just going to say, just hold on. Just a little, let's just see this one through. I felt that this was very, some of the music even, when he was running around in the dirt, and some of the music harkened back to that episode 5 sort of eerie, moments where Luke was training in the Force and reaching out. It was the same track when Kenobi and, when Luke fights the apparition of himself in Dagobah. It was the same style of music. That's what they used for that scene, and I think that's what just adds to the suspense of that moment. And so, yeah, I want that final battle. We better get that final battle rematch, because I'm going to be honest right now, with rumblings of season 2, I am a bit worried. I am a bit worried that it's not going to be as good as it's supposed to, because now there's talks of a second season of Kenobi. That tells me that they're probably going to leave this one on a cliffhanger, or they're not going to finish the story, and that they went into this hoping that it would be enough interest to greenlight a season 2. If that's the case, we're going to have a different discussion by the end.
That was the promise, is that this one would never get a sequel. That was part of the whole promise that this was going to be good, was that it was going to be a 6-episode wrap-up
story,
of the Kenobi story to, fully, wholly round out everything Skywalker.
If it was contemplated,
finally been defined.
Guys, the sequel exists. It's called A New Hope. That's the sequel, right?
Exactly. But the
sequel's Rogue One.
is that as far as Gandalf goes, like that's who Obi-Wan's supposed to emulate, right? As far as the hero's journey,
All right, I think
Obi-Wan is
Brandon's got a
supposed to be
response.
Gandalf.
So,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
there's a lot of things PD said that I agree with. I didn't hate the episode in its entirety. There, like for example, in that fight scene, right? There are a lot of things I did like that you also mentioned. It's this mix of like there were things that I liked, and I thought they
you're
did
having trouble
really
with
well.
the suspension of disbelief.
It's as soon as he was just so like I could accept that like he's rusty and he's slower and Vader's out overpowering. That I could take that all day. Like that's believable with what you said. But you didn't just do that. You just went. He cut himself off completely and has completely forgotten how. Like you don't learn how to use a sword, not use it for 10 years, and then be like, so where's the pointy end again? Like how do I hold this and move it around? Do I just swing a little bit? I do underhand. I'm a ninja. Like that's like literally like the only part of that fight that he did that I was finally like, oh hey, you're finally doing something creative, and I forget what it is, but he uses the Force to do something. And I'm forgetting off the top of my head because my brain sucks, but he uses the Force to do something to distract Vader, and it was like, all right, cool. You're finally doing something I could see you doing as a trained Jedi. But like, you're right about the music. The music was good. It was intense in different areas.
Yoda?
Like,
I just want to say too, real quick, and the thing that really won me over was the fact that the last fight we had seen between Anakin and Obi-Wan was light stick twirling. Which, if you like the prequel trilogy fight sequences, that's fine. You're allowed to like them. They're really well choreographed. That's why I prefer the episode 6 sequences, is because they're more raw. And that's what I felt this fight was we got back to just that raw, uncoordinated, oh, we're just going to try hitting each other with our sticks kind of, and Kenobi's out of practice, whereas Vader is more powerful than him. And so I think that's what they were trying to convey, was that Vader's been slaughtering Jedi, and he's in his element, whereas Kenobi is not. But you're right, they could have done it better.
My biggest thing is look at Yoda. We have A New Hope, we have Empire Strikes Back, and we have Jedi Returns. And Yoda is nothing except for an old man dying, right? He is on his way out. Then we have the Phantom Menace, and who do we see? An old man dying. And then in the end of the Clone Wars, after watching another episode of an old man dying, we see the most gangster old man mess with Count Dooku we've ever seen.
He drank
and then
his
in
2%
episode 3, what do we
milk.
see again? We see Palpatine, somebody who's never shown any Force sensitivity, any lightsaber practice ever, whooping Yoda's butt, right? Out of nowhere. We've never seen this kind of lightsaber competition. And now all of a sudden, Obi-Wan takes 10 years off and he's the first person to ever grab a lightsaber again. It's not fair to the history.
Guys, hold on. All right, just out of curiosity, how many of you guys have actually done blade combat training? Like how many
training?
Star Wars movie.
Like legitimate training?
Like legit training.
I haven't done
Education
legit
or
training.
competition, because I've done like Pugil Sticks competition, but I've never actually like listened to anybody.
That's pretty close. So
But my combat training's halfway decent.
For purposes of transparency, I did amateur saber fighting, like actual fencing saber fighting for years. And I've constantly been doing training in longsword combat for the last several years. Let me tell you this, after I got an injury that took me out of competitive saber fighting, when I finally was able to get back into a rhythm to start looking at it again, I was absolutely rusty as fuck. Okay?
Yeah.
I will freely admit I was terrible for the first little while. But
canon shows us that Jedi aren't they're way more resilient. Like Obi-Wan or Yoda and Palpatine were fighting like it was the last fight
hear
of
him out,
their
John.
lives.
Let me get this out though, because this is an important point. I think that what they were trying to show in that scene, apparent from what the lore states, so much of lightsaber combat there is a form to it, but a lot of it has to do with your connection with the Force, being able to predict your opponent's moves, to get your blade into a parry position before the opponent is actually bringing down the strike. It's so much precognitive fighting that you're basically kind of playing it out as like a chess game in your mind before the fight begins. Now, there's a couple of moves I saw Obi-Wan's character pull. That switch grip, where he repositioned his hand to better maneuver, his technique is still there. But because he's not predicting Vader's moves, he's not able to fight at that level. I think they were trying to say his technique is there, because I am seeing the technique there as one sword fighter watching another pair of sword fighters. What I'm seeing, though, is one guy is moving at turtle pace, and like the speed and like the strength of like, I don't know, the strength of like, you know, more like toddler strength, versus like an amphetamine-soaked circus monkey, right? Like a dude I would never want to, like, just pure nightmare fuel of a guy to fight, because he's huge, he's cybernetically enhanced, and he knows what I'm about to do before I do it. That is not a fight I want to get into on a bad day, and this is like Obi-Wan's worst week, right?
But see, that's like the biggest problem to me, is that like, as far as masters of the Force go in visually given to us history, masters can grab it and grab the Force, grab their technique, grab all of their memory, and it's back like they've never left for a day. We've seen it with Yoda, and we've seen it with Palpatine. And
Yoda was still on the
Because-
council and probably actively training off screen.
To play
But-
devil's
but see,
advocate, though, all those examples never
yeah,
tried to
We
cut
never
themselves off
see
from the
Yoda
Force.
move. No, but see, the only time we've ever seen anybody try to cut themselves off from the Force is Luke. We've never seen that before, and then suddenly it's commonplace, even though it goes completely against his prime directive, which his prime directive was prepare yourself for Luke's coming of age, because you are teaching a half Metachlorian, half Naboo person. You're raising literally another half of the Metachlorian count, and suddenly Leia is also another half, and none of this breaks any of the lore. But what does break the lore is that Obi-Wan cut himself off from the Force, even though as far as A New Hope goes,
He
he
didn't cut himself
has
off
zero
completely.
dispassion for the Force. Right, he
Yeah,
didn't get
yes,
cut
and that's
himself
my
at all.
point, John. That's the whole point of this story. Is he's spent the last 10 years living in with his head in the sand, mourning the
how
death
can
of
he-
his family, and he's
How
not
can he
even
have
sure.
a prime directive
He's not
that
even
he's
sure,
holding?
but he's not even sure if he's going to train Luke right now. Like, that's the thing.
No,
We can't keep looking at this from the eyes of
Where
Episode
does-
4 Obi-Wan. We got to see it
No,
from
no,
right
see-
now.
But see, that's what I'm saying though, is like I'm comparing and contrasting it to all the Obi-Wans before. I'm not saying for sure that he is definitely set on becoming and raising Anakin 2.0. Like, I can definitely understand that that is a fear that he has.
That's one of the
But
main
what I-
things he's
but-
struggling with right now.
But what we're seeing is that he's also struggling with his relationship with the Force.
Yes.
Because that's the part that doesn't make any sense. Because he knows why Anakin
no,
went
it makes
dark.
total sense. It makes
No,
perfect
but hear me out.
sense.
Hear me out.
I
See,
will,
it doesn't
but-
make sense. It doesn't make sense in terms of his relationship to Anakin, because the whole time he was training Anakin in the right way to use the Force, and he kept proving, and we have example after example of where the light side reigns supreme. Anakin falls to the dark side for falling to the dark side for the one thing Obi-Wan has never fallen to any side for, and that's love. And so for Obi-Wan to understand that Anakin was betrayed by love and attachment, and that's one of the things that Yoda has always harped forever, attachment is the fastest way to the dark side, and Anakin fell that way. For Obi-Wan to be like, oh, how can I love the Force if that's what it created? It's like, no, he fell for the thing that everybody promised him he would fall for. Like, as far as guaranteed relationship with the higher being goes, if God says you will for sure die if you smite somebody, or if you murder somebody, and every murderer ever dies the moment they murder somebody, it's pretty easy to believe in that God. If the most powerful Jedi in the world falls to the dark side because of love, suddenly the rules that attraction play become legit. It's like there is no other answer to it. As long as I maintain this passion,
Anakin
I
didn't
will
fall
be
to
a
the dark
Jedi.
side because he was in love. He fell to the dark side because Palpatine manipulated him. Palpatine
No,
gave
but
him
it
empty
started
promises.
with love.
Now we take that
Palpatine
back.
had
We take that
nothing
back.
without Padme.
He wasn't doing it for love. He was doing it because of his own self-interest, because he found a way that he thought he could save Padme, because Palpatine was
Right.
lying to him.
But he had to
He
save
was lied
Padme
to.
because of his love for Padme.
No, he
Like,
had to save Padme
Palpatine
because
had-
he was fed a bunch of bullshit.
But Palpatine had no entrance in unless Anakin was already in
But
love.
this is
despite
my
the
point
Jedi
about why
code
Obi-Wan
to not have
being
attachment.
disconnected from the Force makes perfect sense, though, because he did everything right. He is basically the poster child of what a good Jedi is. He followed the Force. He did not chase his love interest, the Mandalorian lady in the Clone Wars. He purposefully did not go that way. He stuck to the code. He did everything he was supposed to. And what did it get him? Living in the sand with the
But-
son of basically
that's
his
always
his
been the
grandson.
promise.
His grandson, who he's now disconnected from. Because he saw Vader as his son. Obi-Wan did have an attachment, and that was Anakin. And that's why he feels not only betrayed by Anakin, but he feels betrayed by the Force, because he did everything he was supposed to, and in the end he lost all
But
of his family, he has no
that was-
friends, and he's
that's
alone.
Always the promise of being a Jedi. Like, the promise of being a Jedi is to suffer so the world doesn't have to. You
I think you're
deal with
making
the
your own
world's
canon
problems.
at this point, because
Well,
the
no,
whole
it's-
promise
it-
of being a Jedi is you get to be a noble peacekeeper who everyone looks up to.
Right, and nobility means that sometimes you have to suffer immense loss with a smile on your face.
Yeah, immense loss is not losing your entire status and having your entire
identity
political
and
operation
everything.
just thrown over. No, that's
Right,
not
no,
it
and
at
that's
all.
why-
That's not
that's
what
why
the
I don't-
Jedi promised either.
That's why I don't have a problem with him being tired of all of the rules. But I'm saying that his relationship with the Force would never be stronger because none of it has actually been broken. The Force itself has never lied to him. It's never betrayed him. The Force, as far as he's been taught, as far as the Jedi Code goes, attachment leads to the dark side of any kind. His best friend, his son,
that's a
gave
Jedi,
in to love
That's a
and
Jedi
lost.
lie. That's not
Exactly.
That's not the
Yeah, but
Force.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's his
the
religion
Force,
that lied to him. Not it has
no,
nothing
but
to
it
do with
didn't
the
lie
Force.
to him. It didn't. That's
it
that's my
did.
point. Is it didn't lie because the lie that you're saying is that attachment leads to the dark side. You're saying that's a lie.
It is.
But according to Obi-Wan, that's exactly what happened to his best friend. His best friend fell in love. He then was betrayed by his other associates and then manipulated to the dark side. But it was only because of his love for Padme that he was capable of being manipulated to the dark side.
No,
Because as far as differences goes, Obi-Wan, the only difference between Obi-Wan and Anakin was Padme. Was the relationship that Anakin shared with Padme, because Obi-Wan was always able to say no and Anakin wasn't. And why was Anakin not? And that's what Obi-Wan witnessed, verified. Like, as far as like religious lies go, if anything, Obi-Wan witnessed a perfect lie fulfill itself.
Well, guys, I'm going to say this right now because I think this needs to be said. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching the show, this is what we've been talking about. Because both of these gentlemen have an extremely passionate position that they are taking, but we are still managing to have a polite and reasonable discourse about it. Gentlemen, just to be the voice of reason here, I think both of you guys have very valid points, but I don't think you guys are going to be able to fundamentally agree on how the
Nope.
Force works here tonight.
Fair.
So
Fair,
I do
fair.
have
think maybe we
a
gotta-
agreement thought that I can flip this on, where there's something PD said earlier that I agree with, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition the way he thinks it is. And it's not with what they were just talking about, because I'm on the same page as you. I was already thinking about how to try to spin that a little bit. And it's when you were talking about his defeat with Vader here, and how the point is going to be use that as the springboard to make his comeback, to come back around to like get back to that status point. I think that's going to happen, but I'm pretty positive it's not going to come to fruition the way you want it to, in the sense of it's not going to be Vader he fights and gets and shows, because that doesn't happen till episode 4. What's going to happen though is I almost can guarantee, because he's so popular, what they're gonna do is, because this is supposed to be taking place at the same time as what's the animated one?
Rebels.
Rebels. And if I recall correctly, in Rebels, at one point he comes back across Darth Maul, and they fight, and he kills Darth Maul. It's not this crazy fight. It's a melancholy moment. I've seen the scene.
It's
It's a very
It's
well
kind
done.
of this weirdly beautiful moment, and I think what's going to happen is we're going to watch this, and they're going to do that scene for a handful of reasons. A, the actor who played Darth Maul is highly loved for his playing as Darth Maul. He loves the character deeply. Like, it would not take much for them to convince him, like, hey, we want you to come on to play Maul. He'd be like, dude, where do I sign? Like, right now. So, like, it would make so much sense, even from just, like, a business decision, to be like, we need to bring this scene so we can hire this man. People will lose their collective minds. And I think that's going to be... you're going to watch him build up into the point where it's like, this is Obi-Wan again, and then that moment's going to happen, and it's not going to be this crazy, insane fight. It's going to be short, it's going to be to the point, and it'll be melancholy, because it's also this recognition of, like, the arc of these two people.
Guys, I will say this, too. I think they are building to Qui-Gon coming back as a Force ghost. Because now we've hit Obi-Wan hit his absolute lowest point. He's, as far as he's concerned, totally failed. He's going to be sitting in a bacta tank, regenerating or whatever, to get rid of the burns. That's when Qui-Gon's going to show up and set him straight.
Do we have confirmation that Liam Neeson has been contracted, though?
Dude, that's what I was just wondering. I was like, will it be Liam?
Because
please make it Liam Neeson.
I don't think it will.
He did show up for the Clone Wars when Yoda goes to has that vision or that experience. I think it's the last episode of season 6. When he goes to the Force area, Liam Neeson did reprise his role. Oh no, Andy showed up in a Force thing too.
Yeah, John, this is all I can say to that question. I'm not permitted to say.
See, my biggest fear is I just don't believe that Disney would work with Liam Neeson after recent remarks that he's made in the media, and that's what my thing is like, this is where my theory goes, is you guys are setting up two great ideas, right? Where's our Rocky build up, and then where's our big reveal of Obi-Wan becoming the Jedi Master that we remember? And I hate this because it's too fast now. But I really get the vibe that Reva's going to turn sides on the next episode. Reva's going to be Rocky, or Reva's going to be Creed, Apollo Creed's son, and Obi-Wan's going to be Rocky, and Reva's going to go toe-to-toe with Anakin and lose, but do some damage that motivates Obi-Wan, like, oh, I really do need to train Luke, because if I can just teach him to be better than Reva.
Yeah, and I think Reva has her own interests. I don't think she's necessarily going to churn, like, full light side, but I think she definitely has a vendetta out for Vader, and she's just using her position. But go ahead, Chris, you had a thought.
I was going to say, it's a good point about pacing. Because, I mean, earlier I was thinking, okay, if you're going to do 2 or 3 seasons, but it's more of an introspective show, you could definitely do 20 or 30 episodes of Obi-Wan kind of exploring his inner self. If the writing's there, I'm all for it. But right here, you've got a really high action show where everything is happening, at the highest level. Right? He's fighting Darth Vader in the 3rd episode. And so with 3 episodes left, and I wouldn't want 20 episodes of this, right? Now you got 3 episodes for a lot of things to happen, for a lot of tables to turn. Is Reva going to turn to the light side in 3 more episodes? Is Obi-Wan going to find himself in 3 more episodes? Yeah, I would worry about that pacing issue for sure.
Possibly. And I also, now that it's coming back to me, I want to go back real quick to the beginning of the episode, just to kind of give some ideas for Kenobi's insecurity when he's like, we've been betrayed, but why is the girl being more a better agent or a better spy than him? I think it's because we got to consider Kenobi's perspective. In the matter of a day, the Republic was gone. In a matter of a day, he was stabbed in the back, not just by his best clone friend, Cody, who just, instantly starts blasting him away, but then he sees Anakin killing children, which that's really going to change your perspective on the universe. And so I think that's why, again, I think we can agree, good idea, bad execution overall. It could have been better executed. I think we could agree that Kenobi was going to lose that engagement. It was just a matter of how he lost, and it could have been explained better.
I actually agree with you that I like the notion that he's lost a step. I may not like the way they're executing going with Leia and Darth Vader and the higher stakes, but I actually agree with I'm not comparing this to that other movie and that other character.
We don't need to speak of that trilogy.
No, I'm just saying so because I've seen it compared. And to me, I didn't actually feel that. I think actually, this is a character who may well have fallen back in these intervening years, but the execution of the thing is giving me a little bit of trouble. But I can buy him struggling in that fight.
Yeah, and I do just want to say too, this has been a fantastic discussion all around. I know I got a little snippy earlier. It does not help that I did not sleep very well last night. Allergies are kicking my ass this year because, especially John and Brandon, you guys know our winter decided to go all the way up until literally last week. So yeah, all the springtime pollen that's decided to make up for lost time. I was tossing and turning all night, then I had to work today. So I do appreciate everyone's patience in the discussion. I'm just really, yes, Coriolan's right. I am passionate about this. I love Star Wars. John loves Star Wars. This is not the first time we have beat each other's heads off over a Star Wars argument, and it won't be the last, which is why we're doing this show. But
actually, that is the inspiration for the show. Parker and I have had long discussions about Star Wars and where it should go and where it should have gone and what it did right and what it did wrong. And to me, I think that that's what inspired everything about this show. Is we love talking about it, but we're never gonna actually wholly agree on visions.
And
now you have
either.
3 other people to give us 3 different versions of the same vision
to explain to me why they're wrong. Anyway, no, you guys have been great. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the
Well,
to switch to my
I think that's the funny thing is we keep getting we agree with each individual person's points on different levels, and that's the discourse. When people say return respect in the discourse, it's one of the reasons why we need to do that is because I don't know why Corion likes what Corion likes. I don't know why Brandon likes what Brandon likes. And if I don't give him a chance to tell me why he likes something that I don't like, I'm never going to get a chance to understand why people like things that I don't like.
Yep.
And so getting the chance to hear everybody's thoughts is the only way we're going to know why people have differing thoughts.
And sometimes some of us have to throw on the black and white bars and blow the whistle and throw a pineapple into discussion to either change topics or shift moods. But I wanted to share or get back into that Reva thought real quick. I don't think that she's going to go light side, but I don't think she is interested in serving Vader. I think she wants to kill him.
Yeah, but to me, that seems very just the easiest definition of what a Sith is. What is a Sith? A Sith is always trying to be Chief Sith of Chief Sith Mountain, right? That's very generic. And I think that's kind of the way I'm reading the character of Reva is that's what they're throwing at us so hard.
Yeah, and I should disclose real quick too, I don't care for the Rule of Two personally. I think that's one of the dumbest aspects ever introduced to Sith lore, but that's just me.
See, I think that was actually one of the most fun because that goes to show how much of it isn't real. How much of being a Sith and being a Jedi is based on legalism, it's based on defined law, and it's not based on any sense of relationship with the Force. The difference between being a good Jedi and a Sith is literally using the Force for your nefarious gain. That's it, and that's what it's always been, but they made all these codified laws that suddenly change the relationship to be more depending on how good you are. If you're really, really good, you're going to be a master, but if you're kind of good, you're going to be a knight. And if you're meh, you're going to be force sensitive. But it's all BS. It's all literally the individual who is force sensitive using the force depending on how they use it. And that's what defines whether or not they're actually a Jedi or a Sith, is do they use it for altruistic means or they do use it for self-serving means? And that's what life is like we all have power, right? And if we don't use our power positively.
Well, I mean, ultimately, when you think about it, the Jedi religion and the Sith religion, if we're going to call them religions, are really all about, okay, if you were given the capability to explode things with your brain or strangle somebody with your brain, what controls could society help you put on that so you can still engage in society? If we think about it from that perspective, right? What the Sith are all about is, yeah, embrace the emotional fuel that fuels your capability to control it so that you're using it for control of your own interests. Whereas the Jedi philosophy is you are controlling your emotions so you don't get out of hand and you're helping everyone. So it's selfishness versus selflessness and the negatives and positives of both those philosophies, because there are negatives and positives to both of them when taken to extreme.
Right, and it's just,
I just had a
one magic system with two different
I wanna hear that,
interpretations
don't
of that system.
Yeah, or how to control that system at any rate.
So I was thinking about what Corione's saying, talking about which, you know, I agree with you, and that's kind of the sentiment I've always kind of thought was the case, right? But as you were talking about it, I was thinking about using the Force emotionally charged, and trying to think of like different Sith I've seen and how kind of the emotions they tap in. Usually it's anger and stuff like that, anger and hate, because they're so strong. And then I had this dumb idea of like I want to see, you know, maybe slightly nutty to make sense that they're Sith, but like one that has somehow managed to find and utilize excitement and joy, but it's probably been twisted. And I imagine there are some in like deep Sith lore, but like I've only seen little bits and fringes from that here and there every once in a while. But like just like a twisted and joy, they don't use hate. It's not anger, but they find joy, but because their mind's been twisted, like what they find joy in is kind of twisted. That is interesting.
So the Joker with a lightsaber is what I'm hearing.
So I've
kind
got
of, but not quite.
Like not exact. I'm not saying exactly like Let's
So-
Joker.
Yeah, guys,
he would
but that's
never
like
use
the
a
archetype.
lightsaber.
Oh,
That
hold
would
on.
be part of his shtick.
Well, hold
He
on.
would still
I
use
have
the
a story
44.
for you. I have a story for you, sir. The Vader comic book, the first, I think, first season of the comic book. I don't know how they've broken it up, but during it, Vader runs into a Sith artifact that's a helmet. That it
I know
turns
the one
out
you
is-
speak of.
That is a gentleman whose power is twisted by joy.
I guess that's true.
Right? So there you go. You have a Sith who is that. He gets
I have
such
heard this
joy
story
out of
before.
his creations. It's just his creations are really disturbing.
That wasn't quite what I was thinking, but you do make a valid point, because I do know what you're talking about. Because that is one of the most interesting ones, because he manages to continuously live through said helmet. That dude's terrifying in his own right. That's you make a
I
valid
do
point
also
there,
think
sir.
though. I do also think Brandon was kind of hoping for something a little more sadistic though too, like not.
Yeah,
That-
see, I do see the Joker being an actually like very apparent
A
force
potentially
sensitive
good Sith
character.
archetype.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
if
he
you
would
think-
be
yeah, 'cause-
ridiculous.
'cause what are you doing? I just want to see the world burn my way. I'm gonna light the entire world and the universe on fire, but it's gonna burn in such a way that I enjoy it.
My father was a Jedi.
Wanna know
and
how I got these
a bitch.
scars? Except
Do
he
you know
doesn't
how I
have
got
any
these
teeth,
scars?
so
He takes the
I know how I
lightsaber.
got these scars.
See,
puts the
I-
lightsaber in my
I-
mouth, and I'm dead now.
See, I don't know. I kind of wanted to run into the Sith that's like, you know, fueling his power like from love, like a DC Star Sapphire Sith Lord.
Actually,
Right? Like,
Brandon,
that
I
would be
do actually
kinda
have a
cute.
story for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't. Yeah, no, but that's it. So Brandon actually brings a point. When I did my Sith Warrior playthrough on SWTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic, I actually played him like full dark side, but I was picking all like the more optimistic and cheery options. So like he comes off like your best friend, and then he kills you, and that's I
That's
appreciate that.
I'm not gonna get into it here. We can talk to it after. But my current character in a Starfinder campaign, I think you'll all enjoy. It is so special in so many ways, and it kind of fits into this topic. But I'm not gonna sidebar us too far out. I will sidebar back to when we were discussing about whether or not they would hire Liam Neeson. My only statement to that is, on the chance that they bring Qui-Gon in, this argument doesn't work if they don't bring him in. But for the sake of the argument, let's assume they're gonna bring him in. If that is true, then part of my argument I would use towards the fact that they would still use Qui-Gon is that I don't remember if it's this episode. I think it's this episode when around the time I'm struggling to remember. I just remember it briefly because it's a brief moment. At some point, there's a voice line played that is Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon. It's from episode 1. I forget which line it is, and I forget when it happens. I just remember it happening, because I remember thinking, oh, hey, Qui-Gon. Like, was like my favorite character as soon as introduced, and they killed him in the same movie, and I was like, dang. But they play that voice line. So if they're going to bring Qui-Gon back, and they used that voice line without doing a separate recording, then it would make sense that they're going to bring Liam Neeson, because if they weren't going to do that, they run into the issue of they're going to bring Qui-Gon, and then people won't know it's Qui-Gon until it would probably be Obi-Wan going, Qui-Gon? Like, you would have to have that moment. Otherwise, people are going to be like, who the hell is this ghosty man? Is this supposed to be Qui-Gon Jinn? And be like, oh, it is. Who is this man that they've brought? Like, it kind of comes into that backdoor thing.
That based off of Disney's track record, they're not going to do that?
They'll either not do it or they'll get Liam Neeson.
And you guys remember, for the last episode of our show, I was hyped, in love with Kenobi. This episode, I am 180 different.
Yeah.
And it's because, like, as much as I love Star Wars, I'm really, truly starting to see how dirty failing business people are at trying to promote garbage. Like,
oh yeah.
The worst definition of producer is in charge of all production right now. And that's across all the mediums.
Yeah, and we can save that discussion for another time, just because there's plenty of other channels if you want to hear about people railing against Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the individual. I'm talking about production heads. Like, across the board, the majority of people in charge have lost all touch with fan bases, with their audience, with just normal people in normal life, and they're writing stuff that doesn't, like, it wouldn't even pass a high school writing class.
All I'm gonna say to all of that for now is let's just wait till this train comes to the end, and we'll make a decision. Yeah. And if we end up, and I will admit, I will be one of the first in line to say, yeah, this show is trash, what a waste of time, if that's what it is. We will continue to look at it as objectively and truthfully as we can, but we are out of time for the Kenobi discussion now.